This video is going to introduce to you the knight and how the knight moves. The knight is the trickiest piece of all to a good grasp on how it moves, so I suggest you become familiar with all the other pieces first, and then once you're comfortable with all the other pieces, then you move to the knight, as it is the more difficult of all of them. A knight moves in an L shape. So there's a couple ways you can think about it, and the first is like an L. So if you take the knight from here and you trace an L shape, with 3 squares on one side and 2 squares on the other, you get to this square. You can take this L. There's another L shape here. There's another L shape here. Another L here. One here. One here. And one here. So from the center, the knight has 8 choices of moves. On the other hand, from the corner, the knight has only 2 options of moves. And you could think of it as an L, like this, or an L like that. But I'll show you another way to think about the move, and you can use whichever way is easier for you to remember. There's the L shape, but the other way is if you think about where the knight starts on the board, which is right here and right here, it starts between a bishop and a rook. And so the knight move is actually a combination of a bishop and a rook in a way. So the knight would move one move like a bishop, like a diagonal, and one move like a rook forward to come to here. Or it could move one move like a rook, and one move like a bishop to get to here. So whichever way is easier for you to think about it, like an L shape, or one is a bishop and one is a rook. So here the question is for you to capture all 3 pieces in 3 moves. From the corner, the knight has only 2 options, as I just mentioned. Again, like the L shape, or you can think of it as the bishop and then the rook move. So from the corner, the knight can go to this square or this square. So first you capture the piece that's on the square the knight can move to. And similar to the other pieces, the knight takes pieces in the same way it moves. So from the corner, it can move to here. On the next move, another L shape to get to the second knight. And on the third move to take the bishop, again another L shape this way. The question here is asking you, with the white knight, to attack the black bishop. Attack does not mean take. Attack means on the next move, if black does not do anything, then you could take it. So you have to move to a square that on the second move, the knight could take this bishop here. So from the side here, the knight can move to this square, this square, this square, and this square. If this is not obvious to you, take a moment to pause the video and convince yourself that these 4 squares are the only squares the knight can move to. So from these squares, you have to find the square where if the knight was on that square, on the next move it could take the bishop. And then you should be able to see that the correct square is this one here. Because from here, on the next move, the knight would take the bishop. So you move your knight here, and that's it for this position. You're attacking the bishop. On the next move, you could, in theory, take the bishop. And again, if it's not obvious to you that you could take the bishop on the next move, then take a moment to think about it and explain to yourself why this knight can take the bishop on the next move.